You're listening to Closing Market Weekly, the show where real estate closings meet real world insight. With your host, Phillip Hogan. And every week we break down the trends, tools, and the timing that keeps deals moving forward. Let's dive in. Well, hello. I'm Phillip Hogan, your host of Closing Market Weekly. Welcome to another great episode. And man, have we got a lineup for you today. Today's guest is Shane Palladino. And let me tell you a little bit about Shane so we can get right into the exciting information that he wants to share with us. Today's guest is Shane Palladino, an enterprise account executive and strategic sales lead at Secured Signing, where he specializes in secure digital workflows, remote online notarization, and PKI based e signature technology. Shane has spent the past year helping legal, title, and financial organizations modernize their compliance and document processes through secure, scalable digital trust solutions. He played a key role in expanding Secure Signing's enterprise presence, developing pricing and workflow frameworks, and supporting major initiatives like RealFi, the platform's emerging deepfake detection and fraud prevention technology. With over a decade of SaaS, and Shane will explain what that is, sales and account management experience spanning document management, financial automation, and digital signature platforms. Shane brings a unique perspective on how businesses can strengthen identity, security, and trust in a rapidly evolving digital world. Shane, welcome to the show.
Hey, Philip, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh my goodness, and I'm excited to have you because you're the first guest that's ever come on to the show to talk about technology in the
Yeah.
industry that we work within, but yet it's long overdue. So let's get right into it, Shane. So tell our guests, how did you first get into this line of work?
It's kind of a long story, but well, I started out. My early career was manual labor. I did a lot of, I did flooring and various other things, carpentry, and I got into account management and sales because I actually got into an accident. I got hit by a delivery truck one day when I was riding my bicycle, and it kind of crippled me for a few months. I couldn't work. And I had a friend of mine, somebody that I met, introduced me to sales and marketing, and telesales. And that's how I kind of started in the industry. He kind of saw my potential, and he was like, I want to take you under my wing, and started out safety training material for businesses. Eventually, I did door to door. I pretty much did everything, but then eventually moved into technology sales. I was fortunate enough to work with a few really great companies. One of them is CSC. It was e-recording. CSC is pretty big. They do various other things, and then I ended up working for First American um, with a software called Green Folders.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually from there, I moved on to Rhino, which I've been in the real estate space, technology, sales, account management for like most of my career.
Mm-hmm.
I would say digital signature and Ron was kind of a newer development towards the end of my career. So I spent probably I've been in Ron for about 3 years now because I was
Mm-hmm.
with another company, as you well know, Notary Log, and
Yes.
they unfortunately went out of business. But
Yeah.
I was with them for about a year,
Mm-hmm.
enterprise sales,
Mm-hmm.
enterprise level sales,
Mm-hmm.
and then yeah, so now I'm here with Secured Signing, so I moved over to them. So I have a lot of experience in like the real estate space, kind of
Mm-hmm.
niche space.
Mm-hmm.
So I know how that works.
Mm-hmm.
But that's pretty much how I got started. It was
Mm-hmm.
just by circumstance, but
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't go back for anything because it's been really fulfilling career as far
Mm-hmm.
as sales go. Sales and generally speaking, like tech sales is kind of hard to get into.
Mm.
I just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
Met the
Mm-hmm.
right people.
Mm-hmm.
Really, it's just more or less about networking.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved up over time, and it's been interesting too because in my career, I've mainly worked with like startups, kind of like real estate's pretty slow to move when it comes to technology. So there's a lot of barriers to entry. But when you do have a new technology, it's normally never straightforward as far as like the technology itself,
Mm-hmm.
implementation,
Mm-hmm.
just the challenges that come with it. So I've had to be like everything as far as an account manager, um, you know, uh, implementation expert, support. And so I've really got to know, and it's all been transactional based too. So I've really got to know just, not just about the value add and get kind of overcoming the pain of a client, really kind of meeting them where they are to help them,
Mm-hmm.
but also like understanding, like really walking in their shoes, because I've had to carry it most of the
Most of
times
the time.
from the account, from the front end to
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
middle part, which is like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
evaluation and like how does
Mm-hmm.
this apply, and then the
Mm-hmm.
full on
Mm-hmm.
implementation and onboarding. So
Hmm. Isn't it? And I think that's a wonderful ability, or actually a wonderful characteristic, to for you to be able to know all departments or aspects of your particular company, right? And it can really help, develop a stronger relationship with your clients. But one thing I want to say before you reply to that is that,
yeah,
it's the power of pivoting is really what I'm hearing, right? And is you had an unfortunate incident, which is you got hit by a truck, and but that changed your entire landscape in terms as your career. And
oh yeah.
so, I think what I want the audience to hear is that just because you have, a misfortune in your life, that doesn't mean that, you can't turn that misfortune into a really fortunate opportunity. And Shane is obviously someone who has done that and is speaking very highly of it.
Yeah, no, it was it's sometimes things that appear bad, may
Right.
work towards your good. You
Right.
just, can't lose hope.
No.
You got to have, sometimes you have to have a little bit of faith,
Yes.
to believe that things are going to work out, right?
Yes.
And yeah, no, I mean, it was and shout out to my one of my best friends. We're still friends today. His name's Mike Chirono.
Uh-huh.
So shout out to him, but he taught me everything that I knew about sales, and he's really saw my potential, to be in sales, and kind of and nurtured me in that, and we're like best friends today. he
Uh-huh.
actually he actually works with us at Secured Signing. He came over to work with us, but yeah, no, it all, it all worked out at the
Great,
end. Yeah.
great. So Shane, tell us a little bit about the SaaS.
SaaS.
SaaS. Yeah, tell us what that is, and
Software as a service.
and how
So
does that apply? How does that apply to the work you're doing with secure signings?
yeah, so SaaS is just, web-based software. So, which is typically what most software is today. In in real estate, actually I would say probably in the past 5 to 10 years, most of the software was computer based. It was at the location. It was just built into the computer. It wasn't in the cloud, right? But now most software today is obviously cloud based. So that's pretty much what that is. It's just, web based. All the softwares that I work with is typically SaaS. So
Mm-hmm.
transactional sales,
Mm-hmm.
transactional account management, which is all web based
Mm-hmm.
essentially. And to kind of take it a step further, what that means obviously for somebody who is doing Ron is that they can access it wherever they are, right? Is they have the ability to not necessarily on their computer, as long as they have internet access, but they can do everything from their mobile phone as
Mm-hmm.
well. So
Mm-hmm.
typically signers, notaries have to be on the computer, just for security reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as the signer journey goes, they can do everything right on their mobile phone.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And so out of all the companies that are actually produced a Rhyme platform, you want to share with us what attracted you to secure signings?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So I actually interviewed with like almost all of the not everyone, but most of the newer players I interviewed with,
Mm-hmm.
and they actually offered me the job. And not
Mm-hmm.
to toot my own horn here, I just did, I got through the preliminary process, and they wanted to hire me. But when I looked at their business model, I looked at their pricing and kind of where they were staged, in the market. It was just secured signing was just a better solution. Because I came from eNotary Log, and eNotary Log was like one of the best. Like when eNotary Log hit the market, people loved it. They loved the process and the workflow and the technology itself. And the programmers over there were really, really good, the
Mm-hmm.
developers. And so I kind of saw secured signing, like the functionality, the feature set,
Mhm.
it was just as advanced as the notary log, if not better.
Mhm.
And then the security side, the compliance side, because in you have a difference between e-sign and digital signature. There is a difference. E-sign is typically an image, and how they tamper-proof seal the documents. It does matter. I mean, it
Mhm.
doesn't. For most people, they say, "Well, it doesn't matter. We've been using this e-sign for so long." Well, it matters when it matters. It
Mhm.
matters when you have an issue. It's kind of like having insurance. And so I looked at secured signing and how they did that, and it was more advanced in the sense that most platforms are just e-sign, which is an image, where digital signature is actually its own tamper-proof seal around the signature. So it's another layer of security. So you have tamper-proof sealing of the document, and then you have a tamper-proof seal of the actual signature.
Mhm.
And they were doing that. They were doing PKI at a signer level. So it was
Mhm.
just more advanced of security. And then just the feature set.
Mhm.
They had way more features than the other platforms, which I thought as a
Mhm.
as account manager, I
Mhm.
was in a better position, better opportunity
Mhm.
to succeed. So
Mhm.
that's kind of why I did it.
Mhm.
Um, and just the company was good, bootstrapped. It was a
Mhm.
tighter group.
Mhm. Mhm.
Worked directly with the owner. Those things kind of matter to me, as far as I've worked for big companies who were acquired, and then the culture completely changes.
Mhm.
So that was kind of a big aspect of it. But just overall, the technology, security, and the feature set.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then so my next question is, how has remote online notarization changed the notary and real estate landscape over the past 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, I would say, Ron really became popular during the pandemic. That was
Mm.
where it really kind of came to be. And they were under the gun. I know a lot of these states, they passed some executive emergency orders or whatever, and
Mhm.
people were doing stuff on Zoom, and it's really not secure because
Right.
there's no audit report around that, right?
Right. Right.
So I would say it's become more mainstream, though.
Mhm.
Though it back then, when people had to do it, they were like really pushing for it, right? But when things open back up, people are like, "Oh, I can get back to normal. It's not that much of it's not that pressing of an issue," and they kind of went back to the normal way of doing it.
Mhm.
Still want to have that in-person connection, which I totally get, but
Mhm.
at the end of the day, it is much more of an efficient way of doing it.
Mhm.
It's much more secure,
Mhm.
right? Because you have a full audit trail and tamper-proof sealing and things like that. And so I just would say, it sped up turn times and made things more efficient.
Mhm.
It became more of a mainstream kind of idea,
Mhm.
and I see that. I see it headed that way still.
Mhm.
I think inevitably it'll get to where it's kind of like a fully mainstream process.
Mhm.
Um, probably in the near future. So just more mainstream, faster turnaround times, just allow people to like kind of move from an experimental phase to like a more of a standard.
Mhm. Okay. And then my next question is, walk us through the security layers. What actually makes a Ron session more secure than a traditional in-person notarization?
Yeah, that's a good question. So um, the authentication aspect is a big part of it.
Mhm.
When you do if you do like in person and somebody could have a fake ID, you have to be pretty skilled at that to be able to spot that. Not everybody can spot that. Where in our system, when you do RON, there's multiple layers of security and authentication. So we're scanning the ID, we're running it through a database.
Mm.
We're running them through KBA, which is knowledge based authentication,
Mhm.
and so it's checking their credit history. It's asking them a series of questions. They're asked 5 questions they have to answer within 2 minutes
Mm.
about their credit history.
Mhm.
Then you have the video audio aspect.
Mhm.
That's the other part, and then the cryptographic sealing of the document itself. And then again, because we use PKI at a signer level, it's almost I mean, I'd say it couldn't be done, like, but it'd be really difficult for somebody to tamper with the document, because they'd have to go through every single signature. They would then have to they would affect that tamper-proof seal. They would affect the tamper-proof seal of the document, and then we also have a tamper-proof seal around the audit report.
Mm.
So it's much more secure. And then additionally, too, with like AI, we can check against artificial intelligence when they use AI for like IDs.
Mhm.
Now we actually have a new IDV that we rolled out today. It's actually yesterday. So it does check against AI fraud around IDs, and So yeah, I would say those are probably the different security layers. We do also have what we call realify. That was the other aspect.
Hmm.
We see it on the horizon, like deepfake technology.
Hmm.
If you go online now, it's not. I mean, you can see it everywhere, right?
Hmm.
Like you can't even tell the difference
Hmm.
between somebody who's like a real person and somebody
Hmm.
who's using like an AI filter overlay.
Hmm.
And we're just like in the early stages of this. We're
Hmm.
not even 2 or 3 years down the road. Eventually, you're not even going to be able to tell if it's a real person or not. They can have an AI filter commit fraud. It'll
Hmm.
probably be much more rampant than we see now. But so we incorporated what we call Realify, where we check against the video and audio
Hmm.
before a session and during. It's pretty tight integration because the way that we looked at it was like they could fake it in the beginning, but they might, once they get into a session, they could try and, or sorry, they could pass the beginning, but they could fake it once they get into a session. So we had like multiple layers to check.
Hmm.
Um, so there's that other aspect
Hmm.
of security, and I think that will probably become a standard.
I
You
tell you
know,
one thing, that resonates me right away is, your first opening statement, which is that in a actual signing, a potential signer could pass over fraudulent ID, whereas in the RON platform, it's impossible to do that because that would be immediately detected. I
well,
think
I mean,
I think
yeah,
that's powerful. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I would say it's not impossible. I mean, there's still
Well, no,
some,
it's not
yeah,
impossible, Shane,
yeah,
but but the likelihood, the likelihood of a frozen ID being presented to a notary at a notarization signing is
yeah,
probably greater,
for sure.
right? And more than likely, the notary would be able to say, okay, well, this you presented your ID, so let's proceed. Whereas,
Yeah, I mean, even in person for sure, and even in some RON platforms, they're and like the other aspect of why I went with secured signing is like there's a lot of gray area when it comes to RON. Like the way that some platforms, I'm not going to name names, I'm not here to bash
yeah,
other. I'm just trying to make people aware when you select a platform, you really need to consider this. How they like the ability that they have to alter the document. There's some platforms that you can actually alter a document after it's been signed, which is like we don't do that. We don't allow that because notary fraud is a thing. I've run across this. And underwriters are looking at this now, like we had one underwriter ask us, "Can you IDV a notary?"
hmm.
Which is like next level.
What does IDV mean?
I check their ID.
Okay.
Now, there's ways around that. I mean, we have what's the federal X509 federal bridge certificate,
Hmm.
which everybody we encourage people to get because it vets them. They have to put their social in. They get their own special cryptographic key that's applied to their stamp and signature. That's really probably the best way to do it. But notary fraud is a thing. And then some platforms, the way that they handle the IDs, right? Like some platforms will allow them to upload their ID, which means they can scan it in and upload it to check. What that does is it flattens the image and it removes kind of the authenticity or the data checks around the ID. Because when we scan an ID, we look at the holographic image, we look at the three-dimensional shape of the ID. There are ways to like lower this threshold of checks,
Hmm.
right? Where even if you're doing a RON, an ID fraud can take place because there's gaps in security. So
Hmm.
just wanted to throw that in there.
Fascinating stuff, Shane. And that's why I asked you to come on to be a guest on the show, because I have utmost respect for you and
Thank
secure
you. Same.
signings. Yeah, thank you. And and I've always taken you, Shane, as being a man who really gets into what it is that he's doing for his livelihood, and as a result you're passionate about it, right? And I think that that's really when you can really see how a person really feels about how passionate are they about whatever they're doing. So my next question for you is, what does the training curve look like for notaries moving from traditional online to from traditional to online work?
Yeah, so good question. And to add to what you're saying, I'm definitely passionate about what I
Mm-hmm.
do. I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you, my passion really comes from helping people and just
Mm-hmm.
working with people. I like technology and everything like that, but it's more fulfilling when you can kind of help somebody get from point A to point B, and build that relationship. That's what I'm truly passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the learning curve goes for implementing Ron, it's really not that difficult. I mean, for people that are less tech savvy,
Mm-hmm.
they might have some challenges, but one of the things that I do, and I'm just going to plug my shameless plug here, is that I really try to consult with people and help them to see the big picture, because that's how people treated me when I was coming up in the industry. I try to give back. I understand how difficult it is to adopt new software. You know how many different things you have to consider. It can be a bit overwhelming. So in general, setup and learning curve is fairly minimal, but where there might be more complex, and I can get into the weeds. I mean, I've worked with pretty complex setups and operations, so I can go there if I need to. But um, yeah, I really try to work with people to kind of get over that curve and
Hmm.
help to expedite implementation as quick as possible. So
Hmm. And
fairly.
so does secure signing offer training for
Oh yeah,
notaries? Okay, great.
yeah. I would say we go above and beyond
Hmm.
that aspect,
Hmm.
because
And
I
is that
get called.
training free?
It's free.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
we
And
have a
so
thorough
let me.
onboarding and training. Yeah,
Okay, so when a notary wants to come on board to secure signings, then part of the process would be a free training segment that would help them transition into utilizing their platform.
yeah. What I do quite a bit of hand holding in the front end. I mean, I walk them through the setup process, and like what I get calls every day. People say, "Well, I don't really know what to do," and the Secretary of State's not very clear on the instructions, and how do I implement this?
Hmm.
And it's true. There's not a lot of resources out there that point people in the right direction and kind of empower them to do this. So I walk them through that process, like what that entails, what to be mindful of, and then additionally what that looks like in our system. So like once you get approved, your stamp signature, X509, like all of the preliminary stuff
Hmm.
to get them like create account activated and created. And then what I typically do is I'll pass them to support. We have an onboarding process now, which is much more extensive than we've had in the past, because again, we realize we have a lot of bells and whistles. Like we're like more of a niche premium product that you use in house.
Hmm.
You can build your book of business, you can build your business. And so we have very specific settings and
Hmm.
workflows that people might want to like create.
Hmm.
So we sit down with them, learn what they're trying to do, figure that out, and then help them to like set everything up on the front end.
Okay, great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So for all the notaries that's listening, here we have not only a great platform, but a great platform that offers training to help you become integrated with the platform so that you can get the most out of it and they can get the most out of you. So secure signing is the signing platform that you may want to consider. So Shane, we have a few more minutes left and I got a couple more questions
Yeah.
that I really want to ask you. And so what compliance risk do organizations underestimate when it comes to Ron?
Yeah. I would say, yeah, that's a good one. I mean, how the documents are retained, the IDV process, like are they are they very thorough in the checking of the ID? Are they allowed to upload and scan and upload the ID? Those are kind of questionable processes.
Hmm.
um the laws that govern um different laws within the states, and kind of how they're interpreted, and then does the system allow them to do certain, like the platform that they're using, allow them to do certain things and certain things that they can't do. So that's a big thing. Because at the end of the day, I mean, the risk still falls back on the company typically, even if whether they're doing it in house or they're outsourcing. So
Hmm.
yeah, so how the documents are retained, the IDV process, the authentication process, how they tamper-proof seal the documents, that's the big aspect.
Hmm.
I would say those are probably the main factors.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. And so, which industries outside real estate are now adopting Ron at a faster rate?
I would say, I mean, almost every industry that needs, unless they're unaware of like this, technology, almost every industry that needs something notarized that doesn't require a wet signature, we're seeing a move
Mm-hmm.
in that direction. I mean, we work with like everybody. I mean, we're a
So,
construction.
if you
Yeah,
don't mind, can you list the industries that
yeah. I
are
mean, help
attracted to the Ron platform?
financial firms, law firms, obviously.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We see construction companies, solar companies.
Mm-hmm.
Geez, what else? I mean, healthcare for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Any type of healthcare, HR.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I-9s is a thing, people that work from home.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting out there. I mean, it's becoming again way more mainstream. What I see though is like the people have this technology as like an ancillary add-on, like a convenience, but they're not necessarily not now. I mean, I think it's going to be like eventually it'll be the norm. It's just gonna like from black and white TV to like color TV. You know, that's like the difference.
Uh-huh.
We'll see a push towards that. So like I always challenge people. They're like, "Well, we don't get a lot of requests for this." So I'm like, "Well, why don't you just make this your standard operating procedure?"
Mm-hmm.
Well, we never really considered that. Well, why not? You know, like
Uh-huh.
why
Uh-huh.
don't you just push? Because they'll use it as like like to get a request or somebody's traveling, but then they'll still kind of keep the traditional in-person meeting. And we are kind of getting into the newer generation, the next generation, and I strongly feel like most people in the next generation are going to want convenience. They're going to be so busy, they're not going to want to have to come meet in person. That will be, I think the majority of notarizations will be done remotely. So that's kind of what I see now, and I see shifting is it'll become more of a standard operating procedure.
Well, that's a great segue into my final question to you, Shane. Where
Mhm.
do you see the RON industry in 5 years?
Yeah, I think, I mean, as the legislation becomes more uniform, like California is still not active for Ron, and as California goes, the rest of the country goes. I don't know if you've ever heard that, but that's kind
I
of
have.
true. It's
Uh-huh.
true.
Uh-huh.
Once they shift, and because California is a huge economy, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
once they kind of go,
Mm-hmm.
we'll see a big push for the rest of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And then real estate historically has been very slow to move when it comes to new technology. The lenders are still, I mean, there are some fully digital closings like buyer seller, but a lot of lenders don't allow like a full buyer seller package. It's mainly seller side. It's cash deals. When that shifts, it's going to be again like the norm. Once the laws are in place and the underwriters are okay with it, the lenders are okay with it, there's like less risk. It's like more risk that they can manage, they're comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Probably more precedent in the court system, things like that, and more standardized ways of security and compliance from a state level. Then we'll see. We'll probably see the mass majority of these notarizations done digitally. Now, that's not to say that mobile notaries are going to be displaced, but I think probably quite a few of them will be, because you just have to think about it. I mean, it's like a no-brainer. Nothing against mobile notaries. I'm sure they'll still have their place, but it's 10 times faster. It's less of a cost. It's more, secure. There's way more pros than cons. So it's just like waiting for the laws to get caught up, waiting for the real estate space to get caught up, and then some of the bigger states to go live. And then I think probably 75, 80% will be done digitally,
Mm-hmm.
and with a small majority being still done in person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And even done in person, we have something called IPEN, so in-person electronic notarization, no
Mm-hmm.
paper.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a big push to go green and all that, less paper.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a feature for that too, and I think that's also a really good segue into
So
Ron. That'll
are you getting a lot of calls for a lot of inquiries for the iPin notarization
for sure.
platform? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean for sure. I mean there's like a lot of processes with financial institutions where they have to do a lot of internal signings,
Mm-hmm.
especially for
Mm-hmm.
like debt collection and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
where it's like doing IPEN is like saves them a ton of time.
Mm-hmm.
Saves them a ton of time because they're not having to print all that paperwork and
Mm-hmm.
then sign
Mm-hmm.
it and then
Mm-hmm.
scan it back in. If you think about an in-person signing, print the document, make copies, maybe mail it, maybe scan it back into a back-end repository. All that is, you tie the loop on all of that
Mm-hmm.
when you do IPEN.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're getting and in real estate, there there is kind of a push for IPEN. Excuse
Mm-hmm.
me one second. It's cold here. Got some allergies or getting some kind of cold. Um, I think that there's a big push for IPEN because, like in real estate, they still kind of want to have that in-person meeting,
Mm-hmm.
that personal touch.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a big application, a big push for IPEN in that space.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, we went to Alta One, and there was a vendor there that kind of came up with they're a big investment company, and they have a bunch of title companies, and they have their own IPEN technology because they're getting a lot of requests for it. So I think we'll probably see a more of a push towards that
Mm-hmm.
first,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, Ron's pretty viable, but there's probably a big push for iPen, and then eventually, Ron will become more mainstream.
Hmm.
Just
Okay.
my prediction. Yeah.
Well, I think that, Shane, you certainly are a very passionate person. You're knowledgeable. You're involved with secure signing. You're tremendously involved in the industry that secure signing is in. So it gives you an opportunity to be on the front line in regard to seeing what is out there, what's needed to meet what's out there, and what in return is coming back to you. So
For
Shane,
sure.
if somebody wanted to catch you and talk with you more, or possibly want to do business with you, would you please provide the best source of communication they can reach out to you on
Yeah. Right here, right now.
right now?
Yeah, I would say the best best way to get in touch with me is just through email.
Okay.
Just shoot me an email.
What's your
Shane,
email?
yeah, Shane SHANE dot Palladino PALLADINO at securedsigning.com, and just shoot me an email, and then we can set up a call. I usually do like a 15-minute discovery call.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of walk through the preliminaries, understand what they're trying to do, kind
Mm-hmm.
of what they're currently doing, and kind of where
Mm-hmm.
they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that would probably be the best way to reach me. And then from
Okay.
there, normally people work with me. They get my mobile number, but I don't necessarily want to put it out here.
I agree.
Uh,
No, we
but
don't want that.
right. But that's what I would say is just send me an email. We'll set up a call, and then normally most people can reach me by my mobile from there.
Okay, good deal. And so
Yeah.
this is for someone who wants to do business with you, as well as if a notary wants to use your platform, that would be the source to contact.
Yes, that'd be the
Okay.
best way to reach me for now. And then once we kind of build a relationship, then they can call me.
Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
All right, great. Okay, well, Shane, listen, man, I'm so happy that you came to the show. You talked about some things that I knew you could talk about, and you knocked it out the park, because
Thank you.
technology is changing how businesses do business. And, we need someone to come onto the show with your expertise to talk about, a movement that's happening within the mortgage space. And some people may be aware of it, some people may not, but by you coming onto the show, you're certainly speaking to the major reason why I started this show, which was to provide education to those within the mortgage industry to know what's going on, how it's happening, by those that's actually being some shakers and movers. So Shane, thanks for coming to the show, and we really do appreciate you, and thank you for your time.
Yeah. All right, Philip. And can I just add one thing before we go?
Absolutely.
All right, cool. What I was gonna say is for those people that are like considering do like a notary that's considering doing Ron,
Hmm.
my advice is do it now. Start now while it's pretty early on and get really good at this because
Hmm.
it is kind of a niche space. And there's like a lot of people out there that are doing this that are, I would say, in just my opinion, are not great at it. They're not really following the standards, the laws. Maybe they're using questionable platform, but you find a good platform, whether it's us or another one,
Hmm.
and get really good at this and build your book of business because in the future, when this thing kind of kicks off, there's going to be a lot of people out there, but people are going to look for the ones that have become really proficient and skilled at this, that do a good job, and that's where the business is going to go. So
Hmm.
that's just what I want to add for, encourage people if they look at this, those are some things to consider.
Okay, well, notice you heard it from Shane Palladino. Right now's the time to make the move. Don't wait. You know how they say, if you wait too long, you miss the boat.
That's
And
right.
so this boat is already taken off and is picking up some speed. So again, Shane, thank you so much for coming on to the show. And for
Thank
all
you,
of my
Philip.
yeah, you're more than welcome. So all of my listeners, please like, follow, and share our content on YouTube. We also are on Spotify and Apple, and we're looking for more subscribers. So please take a minute to listen to the content and hear what Shane and other guests have talked about on Closer Market Weekly. So until our next episode, you folks take good care of yourself. Bye for now. Bye, Shane. Thanks for tuning in to the Closer Market Weekly. If you found this episode valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone in the industry. For more insights from the front lines of real estate closings, we'll see you next week.